Hi there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel and I'm a real estate agent here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with RE/MAX 360 Realty. So let's get straight into the video today. I am going to be talking about the 5 neighborhoods in Pittsburgh that I believe have flown very much under the radar when it comes to visibility, and they're sort of like hidden gems where the housing is pretty affordable, but they're still in really great areas that are close to shops, restaurants, recreation. They're in good school districts or they're near good school districts. And yeah, I just think for whatever reason, these neighborhoods have not necessarily seen the light of day in the popular media surrounding Pittsburgh housing. So I'm just going to get straight into this video detailing which 5 neighborhoods I believe, and also niche believes, that are the desirable hidden gem neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. So the first neighborhood that I'm going to be talking about today is a neighborhood called Swisshelm Park, which is basically south of South Squirrel Hill. It is right up against the Monongahela River. It is very close to the waterfront. It is very close to 376 East, the Parkway East. It is very close to Hazelwood, and it is very close to Greenfield, which is another neighborhood on the list that we'll get to in a second. But basically it is like lower Squirrel Hill, if that makes sense. Squirrel Hill, as we all know, is very, very expensive overall. You can find some cheaper gems in the Greenfield-esque area of Squirrel Hill, but overall it's going to be hard to find a house under $350 in Squirrel Hill, and if you do find a house under $350 or around $350, it's gonna need some work, or it's gonna be very small. Either way, I did find a home that was listed in Swisshelm Park around $199, and it is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, and it's pretty small. But that could be a really great starter home for somebody that wants to live in the Squirrel Hill area. Maybe it's just, 1 or 2 people living there, or, they're okay with the small amount of space. It's somewhere they can get into, but they can still be really, really close to everything that Squirrel Hill and the East Liberty, east side of Pittsburgh has to offer. So my feeling about why this neighborhood has gone so under the radar is because it's not that big, okay? There's not that many places for sale in Swisshelm Park. So when they come up for sale, they can veer sort of more towards the 300,000s, which is still really cheap for a subset or a sub neighborhood of Squirrel Hill. It's not in Squirrel Hill proper. It's actually down this hill. Like the name says, it does have a park attached to it. It is this very cozy sort of like tucked away, hidden gem, very quiet sort of neighborhood. And so honestly, that is probably another reason why it's totally, flies under the radar. But yeah, homes don't go for sale often in Swisshelm Park. So if you were thinking of moving to the Squirrel Hill area and you're like, yes, Squirrel Hill is the place for me, you definitely want to keep your eye on Swisshelm Park, because something might pop up there that is affordable and in your range. And it's a short drive to the waterfront. You can get to the South Hills pretty easily from there. You can obviously get to Squirrel Hill and the East Liberty area of the city very easily. And yeah, it's just a central, cool place to be if you really would like to live in that Allegheny East area. The next place I'm going to mention is Greenfield, like I expressed before. I believe that Greenfield is a hidden gem because I think it's overlooked a lot because of its proximity to Squirrel Hill. And I think sometimes when people are looking to move in that area, like they have Squirrel Hill in their mind, typically they have the money to buy there. So Greenfield is a little bit overlooked, or it's more overlooked. It's not as well put together as Squirrel Hill, let's just say that. It is a very urban area. Homes are very close together. It's almost like Stanton Heights, but it's in the opposite direction. So Stanton Heights is up against the Allegheny River, and Greenfield is up against the Monongahela River. The thing that I think makes it so similar to Stanton Heights is that it is sort of like falling in the shadow of a neighborhood. So Stanton Heights, for instance, is falling in the shadow of Lawrenceville and Morningside. Morningside is also another sort of tucked away gem neighborhood, but over the last 5 years or so, Stanton Heights and Morningside have become more popular and more well-known because of their proximity to Lawrenceville, and Lawrenceville has just gotten way too expensive for a lot of people, and it's very crowded. So I think Greenfield has suffered from the same fate, but the people looking in the Squirrel Hill area, they already know what they're getting themselves into, and most of the time they can afford to buy in Squirrel Hill. So Greenfield is a little bit overlooked, but it's similar also to Swisshelm Park in that it is close to the waterfront and close to Squirrel Hill. It's just like an offshoot of Squirrel Hill, essentially, is what Greenfield is. I think that what it really has going for it is the more affordable housing. So if you really want to be in that area, you need to be in that area. It's like your dream to live in that area. Greenfield could be an option. I have seen homes as cheap as $199 in Greenfield, which is these days that's pretty cheap for Pittsburgh real estate because the median home price, I believe, is around $250 here. And I think it's reasonable that you could find a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home for $250 in Greenfield and not suffer too much for it in regards to the property tax as compared to like Squirrel Hill or Highland Park or Regent Square. Oh my God. So I think it's a really solid place to look into if you're looking for a Squirrel Hill alternative while being close to everything similar to Swisshelm Park. Here I'm pulling up some stats that will show you what we have listed in Greenfield and, what you can sort of get for what price, what bedrooms, how many bathrooms. This is the inventory. It's very, very small, also like Swisshelm Park. It's not a big community, and I think that it's one of those things where you have to keep your eyes open because it's a hidden gem. One other kind of annoying thing about these two areas, I will say, is their proximity to 376. It's good, but it's annoying because you can really hear the parkway traffic living in some of these areas. So that's definitely something to note. Next place that I want to talk about is a place that's a little bit closer to where I live in Brookline. Obviously, Brookline is not a hidden gem anymore. Everybody knows about it. It's ranked as one of the best places to buy a home in Pittsburgh, particularly for first-time home buyers because of the affordability. But we're losing some of that affordability in Brookline. And there are people that want to live even closer to the east end of the city, but they kind of don't want to leave the South Hills. Brookline is maybe a little bit too tucked back. It's maybe too close to Mount Lebanon, too close to Dormont, those areas. Some people might not want to live over in this direction for a variety of reasons. So maybe they look a little bit more towards the neighborhoods that I just mentioned. But they also don't really want to live in the East Liberty area of the city. So where do they want to live? Where it's kind of convenient to some sort of mall or shopping center, or multiple ones like the waterfront or the Century 3 Mall area. Not the Century 3 Mall, which is done, it's being demolished, but the Century 3 Mall area has a ton of big box stores and shops. It's a big commerce area. So sometimes people would prefer to live in a sort of in-between space in the South Hills and the East Liberty, East Hills sort of area. One place that I can think of that recently just even occurred to me is Lincoln Place, which is an offshoot of, I guess, West Mifflin and Homestead. So I do believe that Homestead in itself is going to become a very popular area in the next couple years. It's right up against the Mon River. Any place up against the river, it's going to have its day. Mark my words. But Lincoln Place is more like West Mifflin, but it is a very small community. It's quiet, it's tucked away, it's not quite as hustle and bustle as Homestead or West Mifflin, and it's really flown under the radar, I think, just because, again, not that many homes for sale, but when they do come up for sale, you can find something that's very, very nice, maybe in the 400s range, or something that's a little bit more affordable, like in the hundreds or low 200s. One thing that I think is really desirable about Lincoln Place, and I actually didn't know this, It's in the Taylor Alderdice High School area. So Taylor Alderdice is a Pittsburgh public school. It's a city school, and our city schools here just don't have the best reputation compared to our suburban schools, school districts. So that's definitely a markdown for the city of Pittsburgh. But Taylor Alderdice is probably objectively the best city school that we have in Pittsburgh, or it's the most well-known. It has a higher rating compared to some other city schools, and a lot of people do want to live in the areas it services to send their kids there. They want their kids to have a diverse city education. So that's a great place to send their kids. And I think Lincoln Place is very desirable for that fact alone. And then once you have the convenience factors, thrown in there, it could be a really, really great place to live. So if Swisshelm Park and Greenfield are kind of still a little bit out of your budget, Lincoln Place might be a good place to consider. I'm going to move into the South Hills, but Overbrook is sort of right next door to the other side of 51, which is one of the main veins that runs through the South Hills. It's a very annoying one, but it's a big traffic road. And I think people are, again, so focused on Brookline. They're so focused on Dormont. They're so focused on Mount Lebanon. They are so focused on Beachview and Banksville Westwood that maybe they don't look at Overbrook. And Overbrook is it's in between Mount Oliver and Carrick. It's sort of somewhat south of those areas. But I think it gets overlooked because there are some neighborhoods in and around Overbrook that have a less good reputation. I think that's the only thing I can really say about the neighborhoods. But it gets grouped in with those somewhat, and then, overlooked because of its proximity to some more desirable neighborhoods. And I'm putting that in quotation marks because that's a matter of opinion. And I don't have an opinion. This is the sort of the conjecture going around about neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. So Overbrook, my dad lives there. I've sold some homes there, and everybody that lives there really loves it because it's quiet. And it is, it's got that city feel. You are close to the South Hills Village. You are close to the Century 3 Mall area. You are close to downtown. You're just a straight shoot. You're close to Mount Washington, which has its own perks. So you are really, living on that main vein, you are really close to all that Pittsburgh has to offer, and you're still in the South Hills, you're still in the city area, you can still take advantage of the lower property taxes that are in the city of Pittsburgh. And so I think Overbrook is a great place to look if you're just you're over Brookline, you're over Dormont, you're over the trendy neighborhoods. Overbrook might be a good alternative, and the homes are still relatively cheap, floating around $200 for most of them, if you can find one. Again, our inventory in Pittsburgh right now is a lot lower than I think it's been in April's past. I'm not seeing the influx of homes that I have seen in spring markets of the past. So I don't know what's going to happen. But again, we have inventory problems all over. So this is not just an Overbrook thing or, a Swisshelm Park thing or whatever. But yeah, definitely have to keep your eyes peeled even more so in these hidden gem neighborhoods. So the last one I'm going to be talking about is Carnegie. Now, I think this one is catching on more than other ones because Carnegie has its own business district that in the last year or two only has boomed, blossomed. I mean, it has blown up, and they've got some really banging shops, restaurants, commerce. They have a cool neighborhood feel, the vibe is right, and it's almost like it's like Carnegie's having this renaissance. And so I don't think it's as overlooked as some of these other neighborhoods just because of what it has going on. I know on niche.com it says that East Carnegie is one of the most desirable places to buy a home right now. My guess is that's just because of the home prices there. Again, floating around 200s, maybe even less for some homes. I sold a really great home in Carnegie a couple months ago to one of my dear, dear, dear friends for, under 180, and it's a spectacular home. She absolutely loves it. She loves living in Carnegie. She's a Carnegie girl, and she's proud of it. And I don't blame her because that place is seeing a renaissance. You have the East Main Street area, which is just so cute, so quaint, but like so, whoa, the wind. Do you hear that? It's almost like its own little Lawrenceville in Carnegie. Like, it is spectacular. It's so cool. And then you have the West Main Street, which is definitely more of a traffic area. It's got the, you know, the sort of busy road feel. You have some wonderful shops and restaurants that are doing very well on that street as well. And then up the hill, you have more of like the homes and the residences. But one thing you have to be careful of in Carnegie is there are some floodplains there. So if you're thinking about buying in Carnegie for all the wonderful things mentioned, I would be very, very careful that you don't have to buy flood insurance with a property, because that is just a big expense. And it's not necessarily typical in Pittsburgh, but because we have, you know, lots of peaks, there's some valleys too. And any place that's kind of like in a valley-esque area like Carnegie is, can be subject to flooding. So yeah, you have to be careful about what homes you buy in that sort of area. Another good thing about it, though, is, you know, it's got a good proximity to Crafton, the West End, North Side areas. You're actually pretty decently close to the airport, the West Airport area, Moon, Robinson, which has a big, fat mall there as well. And then you're still kind of close to the South Hills, like Bethel Park and Bridgeville, and, you know, Castle Shannon, and all those places are actually decently close to Carnegie. So again, it's a very centralized place that's seeing a big uptick in interest. So I don't think Carnegie is going to be a hidden gem for very long, but I think that it is still in its sort of infancy stage of becoming a hot neighborhood. So those are my 5 neighborhoods, my 5 hidden gem neighborhoods that I believe you should be looking at if you're looking to maybe buy in a little bit of a cheaper neighborhood in Pittsburgh or a more affordable neighborhood. I can't guarantee that they'll be hidden gems for very long, or maybe they'll stay hidden gems because of low inventory. But my advice is, if you're moving to Pittsburgh, you should definitely check those neighborhoods out, especially if you want to stay on a budget. And if you have any questions about the neighborhoods, or maybe the more specific things going on in those neighborhoods, you can always give me a call at 412-926-0806 or email me at the email below. And I would be happy to guide you a little bit, you know, through the process of buying a home if you're potentially interested in buying a home here in Pittsburgh. And, you know, this is my life's work, my life's passion. I love doing what I do, and I am here to help any of you all out there that might be looking to buy a home in Pittsburgh. So again, 412-926-0806 or email me at the email below. And also, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Pittsburgh real estate content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.